How Kurt Cobain Made Me a Better Rapper. Chapter 1. It was his voice. The first time I heard Kurt Cobain sing, it felt like a revelation. It was so raw, so pure, and above all, it was sincere. You can tell that Kurt was singing from his pain. His struggles of isolation and almost this contempt for humanity is something that deeply resonated with me. It was his honesty, and the honesty in his voice that cut through the noise. And that brings me to my first point. Sing, or in my case, rap from your truth. When I first started doing hip hop, I would try to mimic another rapper or talk about things that weren't really coming from a real place, things I couldn't really relate to. I used to love 90s gangster rap. Well, actually, I still do. However, I couldn't relate to the stories of gang violence. I didn't grow up in that world. But I did come from poverty. I did come from a broken home. And I felt this intense sense of alienation. When I first heard Nirvana's Something in the Way, I felt heard. The moodiness and almost hopelessness of that song was like a mirror for my own internal world. Again, it was raw, it was honest, it was sincere. One reason Kurt Cobain is considered one of the most important artists of his time and one of the most important artists of all time was because of that sincerity. He meant what he said. You could tell that he was singing from the heart. His songwriting taught me the importance and value of sharing your own story in your own way. But telling your story wouldn't be enough. It was about how you told that story, which leads me to chapter 2, the ability to emote. I think people truly underestimate the power of delivery. I really don't believe Nirvana would have gotten as big as they did if Kurt did not understand the power of emoting. The way his vocal delivery would lean into syllables, bend phrases, and often repeat the same line with so much intensity and rage that the line would only mean more with each use of repetition. As a hip hop artist, Kurt made me realize that the way you say a word is just as important, if not more important, than the word itself. A lot of his lyrics felt more like he was conveying this primal emotion and this feeling rather than from point A to point B storytelling. He left lyrics open to interpretation, which made the songs even more universal. It was the way that he sang, the way that he screamed, the way that he raged in those songs that gave it so much emotional depth. When I write songs, a lot of my lyrics do not tell a clear story, but rather the sum of different memories, thoughts, scenarios, and emotions. And I learned that from Kurt. Kurt made me realize you could approach songwriting and lyrics as a collage, which tells a far more interesting story. I like the idea of things that on the surface don't seem connected until you zoom out. Chapter 3, Authenticity. Perhaps more than anything, it is Kurt's authenticity that made him such a compelling figure. At its core, at its root, punk rock is ultimately about being oneself and expressing oneself in an honest way. Nirvana obviously had great songs, catchy hooks, etc. But it really was Kurt's humanity in all of its messiness and flaws that made their music so special. I remember the first time hearing Polly, and in the last verse, Kurt sings Polly sad one beat earlier than he was supposed to. When he listened to the playback, he told producer Butch Big to leave it as it is. And during the last part of Territorial Pissing, Kurt sings with this reckless abandon. He's like totally off key towards the last part, but it's sung with a mixture of vulnerability, audacity, and confidence. It's these types of very human moments that makes art so special and that made Nirvana and Kurt so special. Listen, I can't sing for shit, but I felt like artists like Kurt and really punk rock in general gave me the permission and freedom to do it anyway. It taught me that it's my personality, my quirks, and my imperfections. That's what makes my art my art. It's unapologetic. My voice isn't perfect. It's not the best thing you've ever heard, but it is me. It is honest. And I'm not sure if I would have had the courage and confidence to just be myself if I didn't discover artists like Kurt Cobain. Because good art, great art, is not about being perfect. It's about being yourself. It's about sharing your truth. And in a world of smoke and mirrors, honesty is a rare and beautiful thing.